Most men won't hear this truth until it's too late. But here it is. You are the prize, not her. That single line unsettles so many because it cuts against everything society has drilled into you. From the movies you grew up with to the stories you were told about romance, men have been trained to believe love is about proving, chasing, begging, bending. And the more you give, the less she respects. The more you perform, the less she feels. Somewhere along the way, strong men became servants, walking on eggshells, mistaking her approval for oxygen. But what if the script was broken from the start? What if the real power never left your hands? Attraction has never been about gifts or endless explanations. It has always been about presence, calm, steadiness. The man who doesn't fold when the storm rises. That is the man who captivates her. That is the man she craves, even when she hides it behind pride. And that's why this video exists. At Stoic Station, we decode the hidden psychology of power in love, why men lose it, how they regain it, and why the frame you carry decides everything. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station and start this journey now. In the comments, tell me, drop a 1 if you've been the man who bent too far. Drop a 2 if you've already chosen to stand firm. Because the question every man must face is this: what happens when you finally stop living for her approval and start living from your own strength? Let's dive in. 1. The truth about power in love. Every man has felt the pressure to prove himself in love, to show through gifts, endless texts, or grand gestures that he is worthy of being chosen. But attraction doesn't grow from effort that feels forced. It grows from presence, from a man's calm confidence, from the strength that speaks louder in silence than in words. A woman admires the man who carries himself with respect, who doesn't scramble to prove his value every second of the day. She feels his steadiness without him having to announce it. She senses his protection without it turning into aggression. She recognizes his confidence without it spilling into arrogance. That's what captivates her. But the moment you act as though her company is a favor she grants you, everything begins to collapse. The problem is subtle but deadly. Too many men confuse love with submission. They think lowering themselves will somehow earn respect, that by bending they will be embraced. Yet the opposite always happens. The second you give away your value, she reflects it back to you. You become the man who can be taken for granted. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In the context of love, this is a call to stop chasing applause. Stop living off her validation. Your frame must remain intact even when she doesn't clap for it. Because if you don't set the tone, she will. And when she does, it will not be the tone you want. And here is the paradox. When you stand tall in your own value, you shift the very ground she walks on. What makes a man magnetic is not that he needs her, but that he chooses her from a place of strength. That is when she begins to admire, respect, and even chase you. The question is, will you keep surrendering your power in the hope of being accepted? Or will you hold your frame so firmly that she feels the gravity of your presence without you having to say a word? Because what comes next will reveal why so many men lose everything the moment they start living for her approval. 2. Why men lose it. The downfall of many men in relationships doesn't come from a lack of love. It comes from the way they give it. Too often, men become what can only be described as emotional beggars. They live in fear of being left, in constant anxiety that the next misstep will push her away. They tiptoe around her moods, whispering to themselves, "What does she want now?" Every decision becomes an attempt to please. Every gesture a desperate hope that it will be enough. But it never is. Not because love itself is wrong, but because in the process of loving, they surrendered the very core of who they are. A woman, by her nature, is wired to test for stability. Her challenges are not born out of cruelty, but out of instinct. She wants to know, is this man steady when life gets heavy? Can he carry himself when the pressure mounts? The moment you bend too easily, the moment you trade your backbone for her temporary approval, you fail that test. And when you fail, the dynamic flips. She becomes the chooser, and you, the man who should be leading, are left waiting to be picked. Imagine a ship in the middle of a violent storm. The sea rages, the wind roars, the waves tower. The crew looks to their captain. If he panics, the entire vessel falls into chaos. But if he remains calm, if he keeps his voice steady and his hands firm on the wheel, the crew will follow him into safety. A relationship is no different. A woman unconsciously searches for that steadiness. Lose it, and you don't just lose her respect, you lose her attraction too. And here's the painful irony. The harder you try to keep her by abandoning yourself, the faster she drifts away. Stability is what she craves, and yet instability is what she feels when you turn into a shadow of the man she first admired. So the question burns, will you keep walking on eggshells, or will you stand firm as the storm rises? Because what happens next reveals the single greatest difference between a man who attracts love naturally and a man who slowly chases it out of his life. 3. Chasing versus choosing. The difference that changes everything. One of the greatest illusions men carry is the belief that chasing equals love. They've been taught by movies, songs, and culture that relentless pursuit is romantic, that the harder you chase, the more it proves your devotion. But chasing doesn't say, I love you. It says, you are above me. I need you to tell me I matter. And when a man puts a woman on a pedestal this way, what he offers isn't love, it's worship. Worship may feel flattering at first, but it suffocates attraction. Because attraction can't breathe in the shadow of desperation. Choosing, however, is something entirely different. Choosing is the quiet, steady confidence of a man who knows his mission. He can admire beauty, but beauty does not shake his balance. He doesn't hand over his worth to be judged. He holds it and evaluates. He looks at her and asks, does this woman align with my values, my peace, my purpose? That kind of energy isn't loud, it isn't flashy, but it is magnetic, because it communicates strength. It says, I desire you, but I don't need you to complete me. Picture the difference clearly. Two men walk into a party. The first notices a beautiful woman and rushes in head first. He buys her drinks, laughs at every line, showers her with compliments until his words lose meaning. She smiles politely, but inside she feels nothing. His energy screams that he needs her approval more than he values himself. Now look at the second man. He notices her too, but he doesn't hurry. He enjoys himself, talks with friends, carries himself with calm ease. When their eyes finally meet, he walks over, not desperate, but steady. He asks her direct questions, holds her gaze without flinching. She feels pulled in, not because he did more, but because he needed less. That is the undeniable difference between chasing and choosing. Seneca once wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." Choosing embodies that truth. It is the strength of a man who allows desire, but does not let it dictate him, who stays centered in himself, no matter who stands before him. And here's the turning point. Once you stop chasing and start choosing, the balance of power shifts. She is no longer the one deciding if you're good enough. You are the one deciding if she belongs in your world. And that shift changes everything, because what comes next reveals why women are drawn to men who stand still in their strength instead of running after validation. 4. Attention isn't love. One of the most painful mistakes a man can make is confusing attention with love. A text that arrives quickly, a smile across the room, a compliment that seems genuine. Suddenly he believes he's found something real. But attention is cheap. It costs her nothing. Love, on the other hand, demands something more: consistency, sacrifice, and investment. When you confuse the two, you step into a trap where your heart runs miles while hers hasn't even taken a step. Imagine this clearly. A man at work tells a joke, and a woman laughs a little too long. She compliments his shirt, sends the occasional late-night text when she's bored. He starts to build a story in his head. She sees me. She gets me. Maybe this is love, but while he's falling deeper, she is out with someone else. For her, it was nothing more than attention, a distraction, a flicker of entertainment. For him, it became a lifeline. What he mistook for love was never love at all. It was illusion. This is why the danger cuts so deep. When you mistake attention for love, you invest as if you're building a house, while she is only tossing you scraps. You orbit around her, pouring loyalty, energy, and emotion into someone who never truly chose you. And when she inevitably pulls away, you're left devastated. Not because she betrayed you, but because you betrayed yourself by ignoring the signs that were always there. The way out of this trap is clarity. Real love doesn't vanish when it's inconvenient. Real love shows up when it's hard, not just when it's easy. If she only appears when it suits her, that's not love. It's ego maintenance. Epictetus once reminded us, when someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval. The truth is powerful. When you are grounded, you no longer beg for crumbs and call it a feast. You can tell the difference between passing attention and true commitment. So ask yourself, is she showing up with depth and consistency, or is she only feeding you enough to keep you hooked? Because the moment you stop confusing sparks for fire, you free yourself to demand something real. And this clarity is what sets the stage for the next lesson. Why men lose everything the second they start begging for the very love that should flow to them naturally. 5. When you beg, you lose it all. Every man knows the sting of desperation, the late-night urge to plead for her reply, to ask for her time, to convince her to love you again. But the moment you cross that line, something inside you breaks. Begging doesn't show devotion, it reveals surrender. It doesn't pull her closer, it pushes her away. Because the truth is, no woman can respect a man who has abandoned respect for himself. In the beginning, you were steady. You moved with purpose. She felt drawn to that energy. Then she pulled back. She grew colder, more distant, and without realizing it, you began bending. You apologized for things you didn't even do. You tried harder each time she gave you less. You convinced yourself that fighting for love meant losing your balance. But in reality, every act of overcompensation was not saving the connection. It was trading your dignity for crumbs of validation. The moment you beg, the entire power dynamic shifts. She knows she doesn't have to invest anymore because you'll stay no matter what. She learns that your boundaries are illusions, that your standards can be bent for the slightest chance of keeping her. And with that, respect dies. Attraction doesn't take long to follow. What you hoped would win her back only convinces her you are no longer the man she once admired. But here's the truth that sets you free. You were valuable before she ever walked into your life, and you will remain valuable if she chooses to walk out. Your worth is not hers to grant, and it is not hers to take away. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are painted with neediness, desperation, and begging, then your soul will take on that color. But if your mind is disciplined, strong, rooted in self-respect, then no rejection can stain you. So when the pull to beg rises inside you, pause and remember, this isn't strength, it's surrender. And surrendering yourself for someone else's approval never ends in love. It only ends in loss. The real question is, will you keep bowing until nothing is left of you, or will you rise, reclaim your frame, and let her see the man who cannot be broken? Because what comes next shows why emotional control, not desperation, is the true foundation of attraction. 6. Emotional control equals the core of attraction. There is a truth many men would rather ignore, yet it decides everything. A man who cannot control his emotions will always lose, not only in love, but in life itself. Women cannot trust a man who unravels over a delayed text, who explodes in anger at a small disagreement, who sulks when met with silence. What they trust, what they respect, is a man who can feel fully yet stay grounded, who allows emotion but is never ruled by it. Here is the reality. If your emotions control you, then she controls you. And if she can control you, she will never feel safe with you. What a woman longs for is not a man who is empty of feeling, but a man who can carry his feelings without collapsing under them. The one who can weather storms without falling apart is the one she instinctively leans on. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Apply this to love. She tests your patience. She withdraws her warmth. She grows cold. The immature man spirals into panic, trying to drag her back through desperation. The grounded man does not. He lets her actions reveal her truth and responds with dignity, not fear. This kind of composure is rare, and rarity always commands respect. The mistake so many men make today is giving everything away emotionally far too soon. They overshare every insecurity, overreact to every shift, overneed constant reassurance. And by doing so, they burn out the very attraction they crave, showing her they cannot hold their frame. But the man who pauses instead of pounces, who reflects before he reacts, who answers with clarity rather than chaos, he stands apart. He becomes the man who is trusted, admired, and desired because he is not common. And that is the paradox you must face. The calmer you are in the storm, the more powerful your presence becomes. Control is not about suppression, it's about mastery, and mastery is the language of attraction. So the question remains, will you keep surrendering your strength to every wave of emotion, or will you master yourself so deeply that no test, no silence, and no storm can move you? Because what follows next is proof that her very tests are not meant to break you, but to reveal whether you are the leader she has been searching for. 7. Her tests and the real reason behind them. What most men see as rejection is often nothing more than a test. She questions your opinion when you thought everything was smooth. She pulls back her affection when you least expect it. She challenges your certainty just when you start to relax. And too often, men panic. They chase harder, they bend their boundaries, they apologize for things that don't require apologies, or they explode emotionally. In trying to fix the discomfort, they fail the very test that could have proven their strength. But why does she test at all? It isn't cruelty, it isn't manipulation, it's instinct. Deep within her, she's asking a question she doesn't know how to put into words. If I give him my vulnerability, my trust, my future, will he remain steady when life gets difficult? Her pulling back is rarely meant to wound you. It is her silent way of searching for leadership, not domination, but steadiness. She is not asking if you can control her. She is asking if you can control yourself. When you crumble, the answer is obvious. No. When you stand firm, when you hold your frame, when you show that her storm doesn't shake your ground, you say yes. And here is the secret. When you say yes often enough, the testing fades. Because once trust is earned, respect follows, and with respect comes a deeper, lasting attraction. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Her tests are that friction. They are not enemies to be feared, but flames that refine you. They are the forge where steadiness is proven, where weakness is burned away, and where the man who cannot be moved emerges. So the next time she challenges you, instead of asking, "Why is she doing this to me?" ask, "What is she revealing about me?" Because the truth is, her tests aren't there to destroy you. They are there to uncover the man you truly are. And that realization sets the stage for the final truth, that once you've proven your strength, you'll see you were never the one chasing. You were always the prize. 8. You are the prize. There is one truth most men resist hearing, yet it is the very truth that frees them. You are the prize. Not because you walk with entitlement, not because you inflate your ego, but because you have built yourself into someone rare. Rarity has value, and a man who has taken the time to shape himself with discipline, vision, and self-respect is not common. And what is not common cannot be ignored. A relationship was never meant to be about bowing before her beauty or begging for her acceptance. It was meant to be an invitation into a life already filled with clarity and purpose. When your world is built on mission, when your days are driven by growth, when your boundaries are guarded by strength, you no longer wait for her approval. You don't plead for a place in her story. You invite her to walk beside you in yours. That invitation is powerful because not every woman qualifies, and that qualification is where your strength lies. The man who holds standards, who can walk away from disrespect, who refuses to sacrifice his dignity for temporary affection, that man is unforgettable. Women recognize it, even if they never say it out loud. And deep within they feel it. She needs you more than you need her. Not because she is weak, but because true strength is rare, and rare strength cannot be replaced. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Apply this to love and you will see its brilliance. The man who needs little from others, who is not desperate for constant approval, becomes the most wanted by others. That is the paradox of power in relationships. The less you need, the more magnetic you become. So let this truth settle into your bones. You are the prize. Not every woman will deserve you, and that is not a curse, it is a filter. Because when you live from a place of strength and direction, the right woman doesn't just admire you, she feels honored to be chosen by you. And here's the twist that changes everything. The day you stop proving your worth is the day she starts proving hers. That's when the balance shifts, and that's when you finally understand why real power in love has always been in your hands. At the end of it all, love is not about chasing approval or bending yourself to fit someone else's world. It is about standing firm in who you are and offering that strength as a foundation. Balance in a relationship can only exist when both individuals carry their own weight, but the moment a man becomes needy, unsure, and reactive, the entire burden falls on him. That is why so many men end up drained. They surrendered the very thing that was meant to protect them, their frame. The Stoics reminded us that freedom is never found in what others hand to you, but in what you refuse to surrender. Do not surrender your self-respect. Do not surrender your mission. Do not surrender the calm power that makes you rare. Each lesson we've walked through, choosing instead of chasing, distinguishing love from empty attention, refusing to beg, mastering emotion, standing firm through her tests, all point to the same truth. When you hold your ground, everything shifts. She does not complete you, she is invited to join you. She does not define you, she has the privilege to witness you. And when you carry yourself as a man of purpose, discipline, and vision, she feels it deeply. That is when respect grows, attraction flourishes, and love becomes something lasting instead of fragile. So the next time you feel powerless in love, remember this. She needs you more than you need her. Not because she lacks strength, but because true strength in a man is rare and rarity is magnetic. Build that strength, guard it, live it, and you will see that everything else will follow. If this truth struck a chord with you, don't let it fade when the video ends. Anchor it. Like this video, so other men searching for clarity can find it too. Subscribe to Stoic Station for daily reminders that your strength, your discipline, and your calm presence are the real prize in any relationship. And in the comments, be real with me. Have you ever felt that shift? The moment she knew, you no longer needed her to validate you. That story, your story, might be the mirror another man needs to finally reclaim his frame. I'll see you in the next video, where we go even deeper into the psychology of power, loss, and the rare calm that makes a man unforgettable.